My father built this business with a legal pad and a phone that weighed 4 pounds. I've kept his 1987 rate card under the counter glass for 19 years. Every morning, 6:50, I review the service tickets the way he did paper. Not screen, same order, same counter. It's not sentiment. It's just the way the day starts right. The phone vibrated. Property alert. Elmfield address. Title inquiry flagged. I set it face down. Finished the last 3 tickets. Picked it up again. Read it. Set it back down. Looked at the rate card. The laminate has yellowed at the corners. I've never replaced it. My uncle Tariq had used a document I signed in a hospital bed, 11 days after my cardiac scare, to move the deed on my father's last property. He'd been planning it for 3 years. I know that now. What I did about it is the part worth telling. If you want to hear the full story, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe to Familix's Revenge. It helps me keep sharing stories like this one. The workshop smells like refrigerant and flux solder. Has for 31 years. There's a fluorescent tube at the far end that started buzzing in 2019, and I keep meaning to replace it, and I never do. 2 part-time technicians. Been with me 6 and 8 years respectively. Call me Mr. Mirza, not Cameron. Mr. Mirza. I didn't ask for that, it just settled that way. My father's 1987 rate card sits under the counter glass. Customers never see it, it's not for them. I run Mirza Refrigeration Services. Commercial walk-in coolers. Restaurant cold storage industrial units. My father started it. I took it over at 34 when he died, and I have not changed the name, the ticket system, or the morning routine since. Some people would call that stubborn. I call it knowing what works. My father died in 2008. Tariq was his younger brother, my uncle. He appeared at the estate attorney's office 3 days after the funeral without being asked. Sat down across from me and said, "You don't have to read all of that. I've read it." I remember thinking that's what family does. I signed where he pointed, every form. Didn't read a single one. I was 34, and had just buried my father, and I trusted a man I'd known my entire life more than I trusted my own ability to process paperwork in that state. That, I still think, was reasonable. What followed was 15 years of Tariq being the person I called first. Not because I needed a father figure, I'm not 22. But because he knew the family's financial history, the property records, the estate details. He attended meetings I didn't want to attend alone. He took calls at midnight when I couldn't sleep during a bad quarter. He was useful in the specific way that only someone with full access to your situation can be useful. I gave him that access deliberately, carefully, over time, the way you give someone a key because they've earned it. And I thought that was the careful version. The smart version, the version where nothing goes wrong. 8 months ago I had a cardiac scare. Stress test numbers the cardiologist did not like. I signed a power of attorney before I left that office. Limited scope, specific language, carefully worded. Tariq was in the waiting room when I came out. He'd brought food from the place on Kedzie that my father used to like. I thought, he's giving me space. I did not think anything else. I've read that power of attorney 12 times. The first 11 I was looking for what it covered. The 12th time, I read paragraph 4 slower than I have ever read anything in my life, including but not limited to actions reasonably necessary for preservation and disposition of real property assets. And I understood that I had been reading it wrong for 11 reads. It's not a limitation. It's an authorization. I wrote the scope. I chose that language. I signed it 2 hours after a stress test with Tariq sitting 20 feet away in a waiting room. I opened the pages to the first entry. Wrote one thing. Not Tariq's name. Not what he did. The first entry was for, I chose this language. Why did I choose this language? That's where I started. With myself. The county recorder put me on hold for 22 minutes. I kept writing while the hold music played. The 4th entry stopped me. When did he first look at the Elmfield deed? Because writing it cracked something open I hadn't meant to open. 3 years ago. Dinner after the plates were cleared. Tariq, casual, almost bored. Kamran, have you ever thought about selling Elmfield? Simplify things. I said no. He said fine and moved on. I had thought reasonable question. Reasonable answer finished. I wrote it down. 3 years ago, he asked. I said no. He dropped it. Then I sat with that for a moment. Then I added 3 words underneath, or he waited. The title company package arrived 4 days later. 34 pages, I read every one. Page 17, Tariq's signature on a transfer instruction. Date stamp. 11 days after I signed that power of attorney in a hospital office. I read the date twice. I was on beta blockers at the time. Sleeping 10 hours a night. Tariq had been in that waiting room. Brought food. Put his hand on the bed rail, not on my hand on the rail, and I had thought he was giving me space. I looked at page 17 again. He wasn't giving me space. He was already past the visit. I called my mother that evening. Didn't tell her everything, just mentioned a paperwork irregularity on Elmfield. She said Tariq had already mentioned it. A documentation update. He's handling it as a favor for you. Then she said my father's name. Asked me not to make something out of nothing. I said I understood and hung up. The pages were open in front of me. Pen in hand. I wrote nothing. First time since that first entry that the pen didn't move. My own mother was already on the other side of it, and she didn't even know there were sides yet. 9:30 that night, I drove to Tariq's neighborhood. Didn't decide to, just ended up there. Sat outside his house 28 minutes. Kitchen light on, shape moving inside. I didn't go in, didn't call. Just sat until sitting felt stupid. Then drove home and wrote one line. He doesn't know I know. That's the only thing I have. I spent 2 weeks teaching myself Illinois property law from YouTube videos and county records websites. Statute numbers, amendment versions, filing deadlines. All of it written out, all of it cross-referenced. Thought I had it. Filed a scope challenge on my own. Wrong form. County responded 3 days later. 6 weeks lost. $340 gone. I crossed out 3 entries and rewrote them. My handwriting on the rewrites was slightly larger. I didn't notice that until later. First time I'd written someone else's name on that list, Estella Reyes. Property attorney. Her office was on the second floor of a strip mall on the north side. I brought the documents, the POA, the alert, 2 pages of notes. She read paragraph 4 for maybe 90 seconds. Then, language is broad enough to cover what he did. That's the bad news. Turned a page. Transfer instruction is in a holding arrangement. Not finalized, you have a window. I wrote the deadline down immediately. She asked how close I was with my uncle. I paused 4 seconds, I counted, because 4 seconds is a long time to not answer a direct question. Then I described what Tariq had done after my father died. Forms filed. Meetings attended. Midnight calls. She'd asked about closeness. I answered something else entirely. She didn't follow up. Neither did I. Thursday. Gus called, part supplier weekly order. I almost didn't pick up. Picked up anyway, because not answering felt like something slipping. We talked inventory for 10 minutes. Before he hung up, he mentioned a vendor who'd been shorting his component counts for 3 years. The math was always there. Gus said. I just didn't want to do it. We moved on. I sat with that after the call longer than made sense. Estella called the following week asking about any prior contact regarding Elmfield, I thought. 3 years ago. Dinner. Plates cleared. Tariq suggesting I sell. Me saying no. Him dropping it. I told her. She noted it and moved on. After I hung up, I wrote what I now knew. 3 years ago he asked. I said no. He waited. He knew what he wanted. He was waiting until I needed him badly enough. One more line below that, no number attached. Some of it was real. That's the worst version. Friday afternoon I drove to the community center parking lot. Hadn't been inside that building in 11 years. Not since my father's funeral. I sat in the car and watched Tariq arrive. He greeted 2 men by name, embraced one, laughed at something. Moved like a man with nothing pending. Went inside. I watched the door close behind him and wrote one word on the back page. Use this. 7 in the morning, 2 days later. I was in my car outside the workshop. Engine still running. The 7th entry on the list said, do not call him yet. I called him anyway. Tariq answered warm, unhurried. Camran. Everything okay? I said I needed to talk about Elmfield. Brief silence, half a second, maybe less. Of course. Come by this weekend. Same tone. Hung up warmly. Within the hour, he had called my mother and a mosque elder. Positioned himself as a concerned uncle, trying to help a stressed nephew sort out some confusion. I didn't know that yet. What I had was the feeling of a man who'd just shown his hand to someone who'd been counting cards the whole time. 7th entry, crossed out. Below it, too late. He knows I know. And immediately after the entry I would read more than any other. In the council room, he will say he is owed. Answer the document, not the feeling. Estella laid out 3 options. Civil court 12 to 18 months. Private settlement Tariq keeps leverage. Community arbitration fastest. But reputation, destroying for everyone involved. You'd have to bring this in front of people, she said. I knew which building. I asked practical questions. How long? What does community weight mean legally? She said, everyone will know. I wrote nothing during that meeting. Estella noticed. Didn't say anything. That night, 11 o'clock. I sat in the workshop and wrote the final entries in sequence. File arbitration, prepare for the room. Do not lose your temper in the room. Make it right. Turn the pages face down on the counter. Light off. Turn the light back on. Read them again. Face down again. The night before, I went through the papers 3 times. Found page 17 misfiled behind page 20, 2 on the second pass. Reordered it. My hands were not completely steady, just enough to notice, not enough to matter. I read the entry about the room twice. Do not lose your temper. Thought about my father in that building, not the funeral. Something before that. Once. I have never described it to anyone. Didn't sleep until 2 in the morning. The community center back room had a folding table, 5 chairs on one side, fluorescent lighting. Same frequency buzz as the far end of my workshop. I noticed that. Tariq arrived 2 minutes after me. Greeted 2 of the elders by name warmly. Nodded at me. I did not nod back. I placed the documents in sequence without being asked. 1 finger on paragraph 4. 1 finger on page 17. I read from my notes directly, not as argument as statement. 3 years before he had access to any document, he suggested I sell this property. I said no. He waited. Brother Said asked Tariq to explain the date on page 17. Tariq said he was protecting the asset. That I had been unwell. That someone had to act. He said it in pieces, not smoothly. The property needed, someone had to make a decision. 3 seconds of silence. I said, the POA had a specific scope. The transfer instruction exceeded that scope. My attorney is available by phone if the council needs legal confirmation. I did not raise my voice. Did not move my hands. The fluorescent tube buzzed once, louder, then settled. Then Tariq looked directly at me, not the elders at me. I was there when your father died. 3 days. I filed every form. You owe me something for that. The room went quiet in a particular way. The entry was right there in front of me. He will say he is owed. Answer the document, not the feeling. I did not answer the document. I said, I know you were there. I know what you did for me. That's what makes this the thing it is. I didn't explain what I meant. I didn't have to. 3 of the 5 elders looked down at the table. 14 minutes. The council returned. Transfer instruction invalid. Holding arrangement nullified. Elmfield reverts to sole ownership. Tariq formally censured. He left without speaking. By the following Friday, 4 families knew. Not from me. The 2 Sundays after that, Tariq was not at service. I sat in the parking lot 2 minutes after the ruling. Engine running, papers on the passenger seat. The property was coming back. Every entry had done what it was supposed to do. I didn't feel the way I expected to feel. I'm not sure what I expected. Something cleaner, maybe. What I had instead was the image of Tariq's face when Brother Said read the date, not defiant, not angry. Just old. Like a man who'd been carrying something heavy for a long time and had finally put it down. Except putting it down hadn't helped. I drove home. 2 days later my mother called. She didn't apologize. She said I hadn't handled it the right way. I said there wasn't another way. She said she needed some time. I said that was fine. She was quiet for a moment, then said my name. Just my name. Then a pause. Then said it again, the second time slightly differently. Something in it the first time didn't have. I said I understood. We hung up. I sat with the phone in my hand, thinking about the second time she said my name. It wasn't an apology. It was close enough that I didn't need the actual one. The community knows. 4 families became 8, 8 became more. I didn't ask for that part. I asked for 5 elders and a folding table, and the date on page 17. The Whisper Network is its own thing, moves on its own schedule. Tariq's name carries something now in those conversations that it didn't carry before. I told myself for 19 years that family problems stay inside. What I did was inside. No microphone, no public statement, no announcement. And it wasn't. I've stopped trying to resolve that contradiction. Both things are true. I can hold two true things. Estella sent the finalized title confirmation 4 days after the ruling. One page, I read it once. Filed it in the third drawer, new envelope. No review marks on the inside flap yet. Called the estate attorney's office to update the property record. Hold music, different from the county recorders, higher pitched. I waited. Gave my name, the address, the reference number. Every detail correct. They said they'd process it by end of week. I said that was fine. This time I meant it. The following Tuesday, 6:50 in the morning. Workshop. Fluorescent buzz at the far end, same frequency. Same slight irritation. I opened the notebook to the last page. 47 entries. Crossed them out one by one, not quickly, not slowly, each one a clean horizontal line. The last one, make it right. Held the pen over it. Crossed it. Put the notebook in the third drawer. Same drawer as the title confirmation, not the trash. Picked up the first service ticket of the morning. Walk-in cooler, East Side, 6 years of service. I knew what was wrong with it before I dialed. Picked up the phone. If this story stayed with you, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe to Familix's Revenge. It helps me keep sharing stories like this one. Thank you for listening.